Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly go over the new and exciting news we got for Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch. Capcom just finished hosting their Japanese stream, showcasing a ton of new information and an even more bunch of gameplay. They showed off a hunt with a Goss Harag, which is a world first. They showed off the actual demo gameplay with Magnamalo, and they even showed off the Rampage gameplay. They actually broke down a ton of details available specifically for the Rampage, which I actually don't think were available before. And I kind of want to go over just some basic information that they showed off and basically just show off the gameplay. I don't necessarily feel very comfortable just showing raw clips that Capcom put out. I kind of just wanted to talk over them and just give my impressions of it, because I just don't necessarily feel like that's a good vibe to just put off raw gameplay that they put out. Instead, I just wanted to just give my take on it essentially, and basically my overall impressions. So they originally opened up with Goss Harag, and they basically had a hunter with some really cool looking Almudron armor just go off with a Mitsune hunter, trying to just take it down. Again, these are just kind of short chains hunt. They're not necessarily trying to actually kill it, but just kind of show off the movements and the exploration a little bit. But yeah, they basically just try to take down this Goss Harag, and you actually get to see so many of his movements and just kind of how slow and methodical his movements actually are. It doesn't necessarily seem like a very fast monster. Every single one of the attacks that it does seem very deliberate and targeted specifically to do mass damage. You actually see the hunters take pretty big, huge chunks of damage. Even with the armor that they're wearing, they're taking big chunks of damage in those hits that they're taking. It was really interesting to actually see them just kind of showcase this monster in his natural habitat and basically just kind of like really overpower the hunters in big chunks of the fight. There is some Barriath gameplay as well in there, where they just kind of like start attacking it very early on, but then they kind of quickly move on. They do kind of like fight each other, Barriath and Goss Harag, a little bit, but it's not necessarily a big extended fight or anything like a turf war or anything like that. They're just kind of attacking each other towards, I believe, the later part of the video. I'm not sure if actually I'm going to be able to show that in these clips. But yeah, essentially it was just kind of like the world first of this specific monster that we actually get to see. We hadn't seen any gameplay of it before, just kind of like raw fighting, so it was really cool to see for sure. I did put up a clip of the second thing that they showed, which was just basically an introduction to Camera Village. They basically showed off all the things that you can actually do in Camera Village, wandering around town, showcasing the actual home, which was, I believe, the very first time we actually get to see it. Your hunter quarters, if you will. You basically are going to be able to just kind of customize a couple of things about it. There's a ton of things to do in the village, and that's actually just kind of by nature, where you can basically set up your armor, you can basically just prepare for a hunt. They showed off a lot of just the gathering hub, even the training area they showed off a little bit as well. So it was just really interesting for them to just kind of like put up a trailer where they were just explaining to people like, these are the basic functions of the village, all the things that you're going to be able to do within it, and then you can basically set off on your hunts from this point forward. That's always interesting to be able to just have newcomers have all that information readily available to them if they don't necessarily want to go through the menus, because you got to remember that the menus are very like text heavy. If you actually go through like the explanations for the game, there's a lot of information in those menus, but a lot of people don't necessarily want to do that. So if they can actually condense that all into one trailer and just kind of present it to people, they'll be able to have a better understanding of what the game actually has to offer. Then they showed off the thing that I was really looking forward to, and this was actually the Rampage hunt. So basically it boils down to being a tower defense experience where you have about 3 to 4 waves of monsters attacking, all originally as a group of maybe 3 to 4, but even in the interviews they talked about monsters attacking one at a time. Perhaps it was a mistranslation, and they were referring to just waves of monsters attacking periodically. You do have a timer, so everything is working as a timer, but essentially you have monsters attacking as waves of 3 or 4, and you have specific points and places where you can set off either turrets or cannons, which are either manned by you or by an NPC player, so they're either constantly dealing out damage or you're dealing the damage out yourself. They are based on like tokens, so they are limited to how many you can actually put out in one specific area. You just can't have a whole bunch of them all at once, or like all the powerful ones. on top of that, you do have the villagers helping you out in specific moments. You also have like mines that you can lay down on the floor, which are basically just like AoE timed attacks. All these weapons and siege weapons that you put out, they have a ticker running down. Essentially, like, they're out for a limited amount of time. They're not going to be there forever. They'll basically just go away after a little bit. So you kind of just want to maximize the damage. They do have ammo that also replenishes over time. So they're basically just out there for a little bit, and then you just got to make the best of it. So it was interesting to see how this is basically more of a tower defense experience than originally presented, I think. I thought it was more like a specific quest of things where just like the monsters come, you hunt them, and then it's just kind of over. But it's just like there's waves of 3 or 4 monsters attacking at any one given time, and then you're just constantly just fending them off. They do seem to have like higher damage parameters. Like, you're doing a ton of damage to these monsters. It didn't necessarily seem like the weapons that you're using are more powerful or anything like that. It was just like you're somehow more powerful than normal. The monsters definitely seem way bigger than normal as well for some reason, but maybe that's just my perspective. But overall, it seems like your hunters specifically are doing massive damage. Like, I saw the hunters doing like 300 or 400 damage, which is like, I've never seen an actual hunt do that kind of damage. So, you know, maybe they're just wearing endgame gear, I don't know, but it was just really interesting to see that this specific mode is just going to be like its very own thing, and there's going to be a lot of people who are definitely going to gravitate to this kind of stuff. I talked about this yesterday in the original trailer when they showed off a little bit of it, and it was just that thing. It kind of just, that idea cemented in itself that this is just going to be one of those modes that just a lot of people are going to like really fall in love with. It kind of reminds me of Turf Wars in Splatoon 2, where it was just like a lot of people just kind of just want to do that. They don't necessarily want to do anything else. So it'll definitely be interesting to see the longevity of it. And of course, there was the Apex monster at the end. They showed off it was Arceus, Apex Arceus as well. No Valstrax. Sorry guys, they still haven't showed it. I don't think they kind of want to show it until the very end of all the promotion that they're doing. But yeah, still no Valstrax. But don't worry, that monster's in the game. There's data of him in the game. So they're going to show him eventually. Don't worry about that. And then surprisingly enough, they actually showed off a ton of gameplay for Magnamalo, which is the demo hunt that we're actually going to be able to start doing on Thursday. So yeah, basically just Magnamalo is just going to be part of the demo. They showed off a little bit of the fight. They didn't necessarily go into too much detail about it. I think it was one of the shorter hunts that they showed off altogether. But yeah, it was just a ton of just gameplay for a ton of monsters that we were expecting to see gameplay of, but they didn't necessarily like, you know, blow it out of the water. I do think the Goss Harag hunt specifically was one of the more interesting one. The more data-filled one was definitely the Rampage. You know, the stuff with the village is introductory for a lot of people who just don't necessarily know about the game. But yeah, even the Magnamalo stuff, it's like we're gonna be able to play that. I'm not necessarily too thrilled to just see other people playing it. It's like I want to play it myself. I'm going to be able to have the chance to do that soon enough, so I'm not necessarily all that hungry to see a ton of Magnamalo gameplay. I'll be able to get my butt kicked online by him soon enough. But yeah, the Goss Harag stuff was really interesting. The Rampage, again, the fact that it's his very own thing is really interesting to me. And yeah, it was just really cool to see a ton of gameplay. Now, the interesting thing is that this was all in the Japanese stream that they held just a little bit ago. There is a Western stream, a stream that's supposed to be in English. I don't think they're going to show the same thing. They had this like calligraphy person doing our thing originally at the beginning of the stream. They had a person sing. Just a lot of talent for the game that they're showing off. But I don't think they're going to show any of that in the actual Western stream. My guess is that they're going to have like the Western Capcom team put their own kind of event. So you're probably going to be able to see something very similar to what they showed off just now, but with like English overlay on top of it. So it'll be more palatable for people in the West to be able to just consume just about the same amount of information and the same amount of gameplay, which I'm assuming they're going to show off in a much more different environment, because I don't think necessarily people in the West are interested in seeing Japanese calligraphy being made live, or a Japanese person singing for the game. Not that that's not appealing in its very own way, but just the fact that, you know, they decided to just hold the stream about 3 hours earlier as opposed to the Western stream. I found that a little bit interesting, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's about it for this video. I try to keep it as short as possible. It was about a 2-hour stream. I tried to condense all the information in about 10 minutes, and I didn't necessarily want to go into too much detail since you guys are probably going to watch the Western stream already, and I'm assuming, and this is just maybe I'm making a mistake, that they're going to show off a lot of this information in their own Western stream. So I'm probably not going to make a reactions video to that unless they show something completely new that we haven't seen before. But other than that, if you're new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.